and the acceptance of gay sexuality, which is something I think you also work on a lot in your practice. I don't know if you feel that acceptance is getting better or if we can give tips to those who don't accept themselves. How do you see it? How does psychology address this?
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty broad topic too, but what I can say is it's great that today we have a lot more discussion about this. 20 years ago, we couldn't talk as openly as we do today because people would boycott the channel. They would say, wow, that's outrageous because this goes against morals and good customs, which is a phrase we've been hearing a lot lately anyway. Yeah, but it's a good thing that we've been discussing this a lot because conversations like the one we're having here are important since there are probably people listening to us right now who need to hear that there is a channel for dialogue, that there are people willing to talk about this, willing to work on this, willing to accept this kind of thing, because it's still a very, how can I put it? Yeah, people still suffer a lot alone with this. People, especially people within the church, because churches are still very repressive about this. So people tend to suffer a lot alone inside homes that are very conservative, conservative families, thank you, that don't accept this kind of thing. This whole thing about accepting is really, look, you don't have to accept anything, dear. It's not happening to you. It's happening to your child or your cousin or your friend. It's not happening to you for you to have to accept anything, right? So, what I can say is this. If you have any doubts about this, if you're feeling any different desire or some confusion about what's happening, first seek help from someone you trust to talk about it. If you don't have anyone you trust, go talk to your doctor, seek therapy, because nowadays there are options for you to talk about this, right? And what I say is allow yourself to think about this because again, we sometimes end up falling into this issue of structural machismo and we end up thinking like, man, yeah, oh, I won't talk about it. Oh, it's better to hide it. Oh, how embarrassing and all that. So if you're going through this, don't be ashamed of who you're becoming, of the person you already are. Allow yourself to think about the possibilities, which nowadays are dozens, hundreds of thousands of ways to experience who you are. The more we talk about this, the more options we open up because there isn't just one way to experience your sexuality. There isn't just one way to experience your pleasure. There are many ways, so find the one that makes sense for you.
And repression must be something terrible, physically and psychologically. To repress this desire, if it arises within you, must be horrible.
Horrible, horrible. Because just imagine living a life of lies, right? You're lying to yourself, lying to the people around you.
Being the one who's there living a heterosexual relationship without actually liking it, right?
Exactly. So, really, the best thing you can do for yourself is to stop and think about what's happening to you. Investigate what's going on with you, give it a voice, right? Because today we talked a lot about the partner listening to the other, about partnership, and about listening to what the other person's body is saying, but above all, listening to what your own body is telling you. What are you feeling? Do you feel like you're heading in the right direction? Do you feel like the way you're living isn't really working for you? That you want different things? Are you feeling different things? Things that people aren't understanding what you're going through? Seek help, try to understand it, accept it, because it all starts there, right? It starts with you. No one is going to come up to you, take your hand, and say, hey, come here. Are you going through this? Are you? No, no, wouldn't it be interesting for you to know about this? So, unfortunately, the beginning of this journey is kind of lonely. But it doesn't have to be. If you feel alone going through this, reach out to someone because you will find someone willing to walk through this process with you. I think that's the most important thing.
Are the main fears related to parents? Is that the main complaint you hear in your office? Is it the fear of what the parents will think?
Yeah, mainly it is. Like, by far, the biggest fear is about what the parents and family will think because there are countless cases of people that, well, we all know for sure. I know some people anyway, who had to leave home when they came out about their sexuality, who sometimes had to move to another city because of it so that their family wouldn't find out. Without the courage or whatever to tell their family, the family doesn't even know. So, the main complaint is this about parents and their children. Again, it's great that nowadays we can open up this kind of dialogue because a lot of parents are watching us, a lot of children are watching us. So this relationship between parents and children needs to be an open path, right? Parents need to be available to talk with their children so that they can come and say what's going on with them without being judged, right? Because they're afraid of being judged, of being excluded from the family, and that fear of exclusion makes them exclude themselves from the family out of fear of what might happen, right? Yeah, it backfires, right? Out of fear of being excluded, sometimes they feel they have to exclude themselves to protect the family because they think, no, I'll stay away because I know this will harm my family, so I'll keep my distance. So, what kind of parents are we being? I'm not a mother yet, but maybe I will be one day anyway. What kind of parents is our society creating today? What kind of relationship between parents and children do we have that makes our children afraid of their parents? Afraid of how their parents will react to this? Because that's the main complaint. Yes, definitely.
And for parents as well, I don't know if you can give any advice, like to make this acceptance easier. What can you say to a father or mother who is dealing with this situation at home with a son or daughter who is homosexual?
Uh huh. Yeah, well, again, right? That cliche thing we always talk about, which is dialogue, and it really works. So if you suspect that your daughter or your son has a different sexual orientation, if you're afraid for them, because I also hear this a lot from parents in this sense, oh, I'm afraid of what my son or daughter will face out there. It's not it's not that I don't agree, it's that I'm afraid. But you are the person your son or daughter needs most at that moment. So the fear, the things people out there might do to your son or daughter won't be worse than being rejected by their own parents. So there are many parents out there who don't know how to deal with this and end up doing what? Ignoring it. They ignore the fact, isolate themselves from their children or deprive their children, right? They try to overprotect them so they don't discover this kind of thing, so they don't have access to this kind of experience out of fear. And what ends up happening? A separation between them. Because you, as a parent, know that when you put up a barrier, that's it. There won't be any communication. Communication is the key. It's about understanding what your children are going through. It's about supporting them together, you know? No, let's figure it out together. Let's go together. How are you feeling? Let's look at this. Let's talk about it. And what usually happens? Parents ignore it, sweep it under the rug as if nothing is happening, and then this ends up distancing parents from their children. So the advice I give is this: talk to your children, be available in a human way, really be there, not judging, not throwing stones, not pointing fingers at them. But if you want to have a healthy relationship with your son or daughter, if you want to be part of this process with your child, if you want to know a healthy way to deal with this, it's dialogue, it's communication.
And then sometimes it brings you closer. Sometimes
A lot.
when someone comes out of the closet, so to speak, it actually brings parents and children, mothers and daughters closer together. And I think there's another issue, right, that people talk about a lot. Oh, what will people think? Who cares what people will think?
Right? Exactly. Parents worry about that. Parents worry about it even more than the kids do. Oh, because what will my neighbors think? What will the people at church think? Oh, but I'm afraid of how people will treat my child out there, and they forget about how they're treating their child at home. So, it doesn't even make sense. And the relationship really does change because when you make yourself available to talk to your child about this, you make yourself vulnerable. Because I understand that parents, often have this thing about wanting to be superheroes, right? Wanting to know everything. Oh, I have to protect my child at all costs. I have to know everything before they do. But that's just not the case, is it? We're human beings. Parents aren't infallible, omniscient, omnipresent, or omnipotent. So admitting your vulnerability, your fear in front of your child who is also vulnerable and afraid actually strengthens your bond because then you're in it together, You're both on a similar path. Because your child is going to be scared too. They'll also be afraid of what the world out there might do to them. Because we know that even today, we still live in a very homophobic, prejudiced country. So, of course, your child they're scared too. But knowing that you're also afraid, but you're there with them, just imagine what child wouldn't want that? What relationship wouldn't be strengthened by that?